So with Halloween coming up, I decided to do something special. I'm collaborating with another YouTube movie reviewer, Josh Wingard. We decided to do a list of the top 10 greatest horror films. And if you haven't already, go check out his channel. He has a video for 10 through 6 of our list. So without further ado, let's continue with the top 5 greatest horror films. They're here. So coming in at number 5 is Poltergeist. Written and produced by Steven Spielberg, this movie isn't as scary as I remember it to be, but it still holds its creep factor after all these years. And horror is my least favorite of all the movie genres, but I really enjoyed this film. Although I didn't see the newer version, I think it is an absolute crime to remake this film.
The original Poltergeist from 1982, while maybe the least scary film on this list, has got so many great horror elements and such great Spielberg charm that it absolutely had to make the top 5. And I just recently rewatched this movie for this video. I haven't seen it in years and I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it. And even though the director credit goes to Tobe Hooper, it is written and produced by Steven Spielberg, and it's got such heavy fingerprints of him on it that I have to believe the rumors that he actually did direct this movie.
It's very Spielberg-esque, and with a great cast and insane premise, definitely makes it one of the most memorable movies of this genre.
It's just a really fun and yet in moments very tense and enjoyable horror movie. I just love it.
At number 4, we have Silence of the Lambs. With its dark Freudian subtext and its chilling and gritty characters, this movie is in a league of its own.
Silence of the Lambs is not only a fantastically disturbing movie, it's the only movie on this list to win the big sweep at the Oscars. Best writing, best director, best lead actress, best lead actor, and best picture. This movie is in a class of very few, and Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Hannibal Lecter has never ever been duplicated as well.
Anthony Hopkins gives a phenomenal and eerie performance as Hannibal Lecter, as well as Jodie Foster as Clarice. Their chemistry does nothing but elevate their performances, and they're definitely worthy of the Academy Awards that they received for this movie.
His insanity and yet his brilliance makes him the ultimate adversary in this movie, and I don't mind saying I think this is a perfect film.
At number 3, we have the Hitchcock masterpiece, Psycho. The shower sequence, the shrieking score, the twist ending. Psycho today remains not only a classic horror film, but just a classic film in general.
Psycho is, of course, a Hitchcock masterpiece and a very controversial film for its time. And you know what? It really holds up. It still holds up today after all of these years.
Without a doubt, one of the most influential films of all time. This film is just an amazing piece of work, and it's directed so perfectly by Alfred Hitchcock, and the score just does nothing but elevate the tension in this film.
The music, of course, is very iconic, especially in the shower scene, and it basically invented the slasher genre, and I don't think it's ever been topped, to be honest. The end scene alone is probably one of the greatest twists in any thriller ever made.
And I can't say enough, Alfred Hitchcock is pretty much one of my favorite directors. And even today, Psycho remains one of my favorite films, and it just had to make this list.
It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it.
Red Rum. Coming in at number 2, we have The Shining. And one of the first films to use Steadicam throughout the film's entirety, The Shining definitely favors techniques that are as overpowering as Jack Nicholson's performance in this movie. And some might say that this movie strays from the Stephen King novel, but you already know my feelings on book adaptations.
The Shining is one of Kubrick's many masterpieces, but probably one of his most talked about films today because of how ambiguous it is. It's very different from the Stephen King novel that it's based off of, but probably equally as disturbing, and has so many hidden messages and meanings in the movie that you kind of start to feel brainwashed after a while. Tonally, it's a very strange feeling movie.
But the film has such a great, disturbing, and psychological tone to it that it's very well deserving of its place on this list. And like Psycho, this movie is definitely one of my favorite films in general, just because of the techniques used in the film to create tension.
It's got really great scenes, some really famous scenes, like the "Here's Johnny" moment, and that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
There's so many moments in this film that get quoted in other movies and other TV shows as well.
Also, if you've never seen the documentary called Room 237 about the theories and speculation of what some of the hidden meanings inside this movie are, it is really fascinating. I suggest you check it out.
And coming in at number 1 is The Exorcist. Now, full disclaimer here, I didn't make it through this entire film. I tried to watch this movie several years ago and I can't remember where I left off, but I had to turn it off. Horror films in general aren't my thing. I don't like scary movies all that much, and especially demonic things. I'm surprised I got through The Conjuring. I got not even halfway through this film and I had to turn it off. I just couldn't finish this film, and for me that says a lot about the movie. So I'm just gonna let Josh take it away and tell you why we put this movie at number 1.
The Exorcist had to be number 1 on the list because it is without a doubt the scariest movie that I have ever seen, and perhaps the scariest movie ever made. And I think that is because it doesn't feel like it's filmed like a horror movie at all. William Friedkin, the director who debatably made one of the greatest cop films ever with The French Connection, came to this movie and directed something that feels just like a drama. There's no jump scares or loud noises to make you scared. Instead, we're just shown flat out the demon possession of a little girl. The movie takes the most innocent character in the film and turns her into the most disturbing and grotesque things that you could possibly imagine. It's scary because it feels like it could be real, especially with the practical effects used. No movie has ever so deeply gotten under my skin, and I will forever remember it, and that's why it has to be at the top of the list.
So that wraps up our list. Please feel free to leave a comment below where would you have placed these movies, or any movies that we left out that you think should have made the list. I hope you guys have a fun and safe Halloween. And if you haven't already, go check out Josh's channel. I'll put a link in the description. Follow him on Facebook and Twitter as well. Tell him I sent you. I really enjoy his reviews, very in-depth, and it just gives you another point of view. It's always great to have different point of views on movies, not just, one person. So go over to his channel, subscribe, and as always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this, you can click right here and see more videos. Bye, Andrew.